This is the video tutorial for chapter 15 of my textbook, Composites Finite Element Analysis Essentials for 3D Experience. And the title of the chapter is Composite Preparable Blade. So let me explain to you what the problem is. We have a propeller blade of this shape. It's a hollow, basically, blade, which is made of a uh, carbon epoxy laminated composite, and the properties are given here. And this surface, of course, is the mold surface, and the draping direction is inward, and it consists of a layup like this: plus 45, minus 45, 90, and 0. Generally speaking, when you use these composite parts, you have it symmetric, so it should be symmetric about that. But in this particular problem, I'm not going to assume symmetry, and this is a particular layup that I'm going to be taking. And the thickness of each layer or lamina or ply is 1/4 of a millimeter. Now uh, this propeller blade is rotating about the x-axis as a given angular velocity, 1000 rpm, and its surface, the front surface is subjected to a dynamic pressure of, I believe, 0.05 MPa. Okay, so right here, 10 to the minus 6 GPa. Okay, now uh, the previous chapters, the geometries were very simple. Therefore, you do not have to do much bookkeeping. But when geometry becomes complicated, then you have to do a substantial amount of bookkeeping to make sure everything is accounted for. So these are the names that I'm going to stick by, and that's how we use in the book. And yeah, we proceed from this point on. Okay. So first thing I'm going to do is import. This geometry is given in the form of an IGES file, so I'm going to import it. And let me see, import is right here, and import. It takes you to a dialog box like this, and you have to tell the software where your IGES file is located. So I believe this is the correct directory. I'm going to, you see now, select this. Okay, we say okay, and it's going to get imported and placed for us right on the screen. There is a report too that you can look at, but generally speaking, unless you run into problem, I don't look at those reports. Right there. Okay. Now, first of all, I'm going to save this thing. Let me rename this properties. I'm going to call it video chapter 15. Video chapter 15. Okay, and then we say okay, and immediately save it. All right. Now notice that there is four surfaces here, and these surfaces. First of all, I'm going to change the color of these so that I can see it better. So properties here. I'm going to change this thing to yellow. Okay. Okay. And if I hide these, you can see what actually that surface is. So I can call this thing the back surface. I'm going to rename this thing, and we'll call it your property. I will call it back surface. Back surface. Okay. Notice that I don't do much about these numbers here, so just leave it like that. Now let's hide this and bring this one into the show mode. Going to change the color. and that is the front surface. You see the other one is the back surface right there. So I'm going to hide this, and I'm going to change the name of this to front surface. Front. Okay. Okay, let me hide that. Bring this one into the show mode. And that is the narrow ring, okay, narrow cylindrical ring. So I'm going to change the color. And change the name. So right click properties. Let me see now, feature properties. So we're going to call this thing narrow ring surface. Okay. And the last one is going to be the heavier or the bigger cylindrical surface. This one. Properties. Let me change the color to yellow. And for feature, we make it wide ring. Wide ring. Okay. And there we are. If you want to see it right there. So this is the wide ring. This is the narrow ring. This is the front face. Well, let me do yeah, front face or front surface, and this is the back surface. Okay, good. Let's save everything. Now, these things are going to get eventually laminated. So for each one of them, I have to later define plies. And for the plies, I need contour boundaries. So I need to extract the boundaries of these surfaces one by one. So let's go ahead and do that. To extract these surfaces, I have to be in the wireframe or generative shape design. That's where I am. So you look at this, right click, not under that, on the transform, select the transform tab, and you have a boundary icon here. So let's select this top one. And I'm going to give this thing a name. I don't think I can do it here, so we say OK. So change the name of this thing, right-click properties. As I said, you need to do a lot of bookkeeping around this. And this one I'm going to call back boundary. How about that? Back boundary. Or that back boundary. All right. Then do the boundary for the next one. It's the front one. And I'm going to change this thing the front boundary. Front boundary. And do the next one. Narrow ring surface, this one. Now, as soon as you do that, it tells you that, wait a minute, I have two disjoint boundaries at the two ends. You see that? It consists of two pieces, one over here, one back there. And these are kind of not connected. So here you have to say, keep all sub-elements. All right. And let's change this thing to narrow ring. Narrow ring. Okay. And let's do the last one. So boundary of this last one. Again, you get the same kind of message. Keep both sides, both sub-elements. Right-click, properties, and wide ring. Wide ring. You say OK. Save everything. All right. Now, the next thing I want to do is there is let me get the back one for you or let me get the front one for you. Let me hide this and hide that. Okay, these two I don't need. Again, I hide it. Okay, good. So notice that there is a curve here. There's a curve here. I want to get this. I want to extract this and later on use it as a guide for my rosette. Okay. Now, first of all, if you can't see this line here, unless you put the cursor on it, you can always go and uh, to the view and under view modes, you can use other options. Maybe that line is right there. You see that? Fine. So back to transform. There is something called extract here, and I'm going to extract that path, that curve right there. You see this? Okay, it's right there. And I'm going to give this a name, properties, and I'm going to call this thing, let me see, I think in the book I call this, yeah, zero guide. Okay, so I called it the zero guided, yeah, something like that, guided, zero guide curve. How about that? Curve. This is the front boundary, front. Okay, front extract. That's good. In the book, it may have been called front surface extract or something like that. So we say okay, right there. This I meant it to be zero. Properties, not O, zero. Okay, and do the same thing. The path, there's a path on the back side. So if I hide this and get the back one right there, I want to extract this curve. You see this curve right there? So I'm going to say again, extract that curve. Say OK, and I'm going to call this thing zero guide curve for the back one. Properties, zero guide curve. Uh, yeah, this is for the back rosette basically. Back extract. Okay. Yeah. The name may be slightly different in the book. So let me be organized here. That's a big C. Okay. Save it. All right. That takes care of pretty much the geometry. Now, we're also going to create a coordinate system, axis system, because at some point you're going to need an axis system for creating the plies and, so let's do that. We go to Essentials, Axis System, so it's right there, and this is fine. Axis System 1, right there. Okay, so let me put this thing in the bring all of these things into the show mode, hide, show, hide, show, and hide, show, okay? And put this thing in the isometric view, right there. So this is my global coordinate system. Later on, I'm going to use this thing as the uh, as the rosette. But one thing I want to do, I want to make sure this X is actually along that line. So let me do this. Right click, properties, uh, double click on it. I'm sorry, double click on it. Okay, I'm going to rotate this thing about Z axis by 90 degrees. So put the cursor there, right click, rotate about the Z by 90 degrees, and I'm pretty sure that will place the X along the X axis, along the axis of the blade. Okay, good. Okay, Now remember, the global coordinate system X is actually this way, and later on when the propeller rotates, we're going to be rotating it about the global X-axis, not this axis. Okay, good. So now let's go ahead and create our material. Okay, so we go to composite design. Let me back up. There's the composite right there. Oh, I forgot to create my material. So let me go back to my part. Let me go back to my part. I forgot to create the material properties. So let's go back to our part right there. Under tools, here's material. Let's make one, create material. And I'm going to call this thing video chapter 15. I'll say CE composite carbon epoxy. You say okay. Now notice that the material will be created, but then we have to actually fill it in. Okay. So see now, just wait for a second. It's right here. Right click, composites. Okay. The only thing that we have to do is to define the proper thickness here, 0.25. And it's a unidirectional, although it really doesn't matter as far as this is concerned. Okay, and then for the simulation purposes, you need to define all those Young's modulus, etc. So under structure, abacus multiphysics, first the density, this should be 1800 a kilogram per meter cube. Okay, and then we go to mechanical, elasticity, elastic, and we choose lamina, and you put the numbers that you have in the table. So it's 148 GPa. The unit is already set to GPa, so that just type it in. 148, 10.5, and then 0.3 for Poisson ratio, and then 5.6 GPa, and 5.6, and then 2.8. Oops, 5.6, 5.6, and then 2.8. Okay, so this is fine, it's done. However, what I want to do is make sure that I have direct access to this. So what I can do is go to the material definition, and as soon as I do that, anything that's in my session is going to pop up in this material editor tab. You can see that it's right there. This is the one that I defined. Okay, let me just check my thickness, 0.25. Everything is good. So I have access to the part simultaneously to the part and my material editor right there. Okay, so now we're going to go to composite design. Okay, there we are. So we have, we're going to do it by plies. Let's read the material first. So composite parameters. Okay. Add material from the database. I don't have to go search because it's right there. If I select this tab, let me move this thing out of the way. Select this tab. It's right there. Okay, so I can select this. And it's going to populate the table for me right there. This is the one that I did. Now, we're also going to do 4 rosettes here. So we're going to define 4 rosettes. Let me move this thing over there. So rosettes, add a rosette. First, we're going to do the front one. So this is the coordinate system. And the zero guide is going to be the one that I extracted for the front, right there, okay? And then we say okay. I wanted to change this thing, so let me actually change this. So let me edit it. I want to change the name of it, and in the book or in the transparency that I showed you, I said front surface rosette. This was the front surface rosette. Okay, all right, front surface. All right, and say okay. Now do another one. The coordinate system is the same. Okay. Zero guide is the one from the back. I don't know whether I actually selected that. Yeah, I did select it. Right. This is the back. See this? Okay. And then let's give this thing the name back surface rosette. Okay. You say okay. Now, when it comes to the narrow ring and wide ring, I really don't need any guide. Okay, so but I will create them, but I don't need a guide. And also they are identical rosettes, but I do, for sake of completeness, uniformity, I'll create two more. Okay, I assume that they're different. Okay, so add a rosette. So this is the axis system. Cartesian, I don't change the guides here, and I'm going to call this thing, which one was this? Well, let's do the first one. So it's going to be wide ring surface rosette. Okay, and then another one. Again, select the coordinate system. Notice that these are identical basically, so I didn't have to do two separate ones. So that's going to be the narrowing surface. Let me say okay. So there's four rosettes here. The materials, we already have the standard one, 045 plus or minus 4590, and we already defined the material to save it. Okay, now we're going to create four plies groups. The first one, okay, so let's see now. For the surface, let's select the front one. Let me go in that order, doesn't matter. So I'll do the back one, okay, and the direction must be into the hollow section. So we flip it so that it's point into the hollow section, and let's give it a name. This is the back surface. Back surface. Yep. Plies group 1. That's fine. And what is it? The rosette is going to be the back one, right? The back surface rosette. You say okay. So another one. Notice that here's the one that I created. Right now I don't have any plies, so let me create all the groups first. So this one is going to be the front one, and flip the arrow so that it points into the hollow section. And let's give this thing the name front surface. Okay, plies group. And for the rosette, we do the front one. And let's do two more. This is going to be the narrow ring. So narrow ring plies group. Surface, right? Surface plies group. And for the rosette, it's going to be narrow ring surface group. And the direction of this also must be inward, so we reverse this. Okay. Last one. This is the wide surface. Let's give this the proper name. Wide surface, wide ring surface. Wide ring surface. Wise group. And for the rosette, the proper one. And inward for the direction. We say OK. Going to save everything. So these are all created. Now we're going to create our ply. So let's start with the back one. So there we are. For the contour, I noticed that in the book I may have done these in the reverse order, but it really doesn't matter. It's the same process. So for the curve, it's going to be, we're doing the back one first. So back boundary. See that? Okay, and the attribute is, the first one is plus 45. The material is all the same, and it's using the correct, of course, rosette. You can see that. So here's my first ply, and repeat this thing 3 more times to get the other one. So the only difference is that the orientation is going to be different. So let's make sure this is the back one. This is okay, but this is going to be minus 45. And I noticed that in the book I've changed the name of this thing to for bookkeeping purposes. So although that's not necessary, but I'll call it like that, back surface. This is too much to do, but that's okay. It keeps you organized. So that's fine. And the other one, of course, also I should have said change the name here. Double click on it. So I'm going to call it back. I'm doing the back surface first. Surface ply 1. Okay, very good. This one is, you can see that back surface ply 2. Fine. Let's do another one. Going into the same plies group. Calling this thing back surface. Okay, and this ply 3, how about that? And the surface is that back boundary, and 90. I'm not sure, is it 90 or 0? Let me check for a second. 90, okay, correct. So 90, and okay, last one. It was a lot easier to do this thing a different way, perhaps using zone method or something along that line, but I decided to do that manually. So there we are. Where is this back one? 0. Okay, let's change the name of this thing to back surface. And this ply number 4. We say okay. So we have taken care of the back one. So let me minimize this. Let's do the front ones. Ply going into this group. So let's call it front surface. Surface. Okay, for the boundary, we use the front one, front boundary, which is right here. And for attribute, again, we start with 45. And we repeat this thing 3 more times. So there's the group. The boundary is the front one. The name is front surface. Okay, apply 2. Apply 2. And the attribute is minus 45. Okay, next one, going to there. The boundary is front. The name is front ply 3. Front surface ply 3. Okay, so boundary we already picked. For the attributes, 90. Okay, last one for this ply group is 0, right? Change the name. Front surface ply 3. And the attribute is 90. Okay, wait a minute. This one we have already done. This was 0. 90, 0. Okay, very good. So that takes care of these two. We repeat this thing for the narrow and wide ones. So apply over here. So let me call this thing. I'm doing the narrow ring. Narrow ring surface. Okay, if boundary is the narrow ring, right there. You see this? Attribute, we start with 45 and repeat this thing 3 more times. Narrow ring surface. I'm not sure if cut and paste works. We're going to try this. This is point number 2. Actually, let me see. Oh yeah. Okay, good. Yep. Next one. There. Paste. I've saved a lot of time here. What angle was this? This one was, this is going to be 90. Oops. I'll close the surface, whereas geometry. Narrow. Okay, very good. And I think this one I picked. Last one. In there. Paste. This one is going to be 4. Boundary is right there. Attribute is 0. Okay, the only thing I'm not sure is whether I changed orientation in here or not. So in here or not. So let me check this. This should have been minus 45. Yeah, this should have been minus 45. The second one should have been minus 45. Very good. Okay. Last one over there. The boundary is wide ring boundary. The attribute is 45. Okay, let's do this thing here. This is going to be wide ring ply 1. I'm going to copy this. Okay, so that's the first one. This is a paste. This is ply 2. The boundary is wide ring boundary. The attribute is minus 45. Okay, and 2 more. Boundary is the wide one. The name, paste. This is ply 3, 90 degrees. And the last one, it was a lot easier if we did this thing a different way, but I fell into the strap. Okay, so wide ring This is number 4. By number 4, and attribute is 0. Okay, so let's save everything, and we can check that using the apply exploder to check that to see if everything is in order. So we go to view, apply exploder, review, apply exploder. Let's try first one. This is the back face. All right, so in order to see this thing better, let me cancel that, hide a bunch of things. So let's hide the front face, narrow face. Well, that one we can keep, it's okay. So apply exploder, apply, and you can make this thing bigger so that it's easier to see things. Okay, so we go here. Yeah, so which one is this? This is the back face. Yeah. Maybe that's too big. So let me do this thing differently. Maybe 20. Okay, so you can see that this is the back face by itself, which was yellow. Then it's 45, minus 45, 90, and 0. And the same way you can check the other one. You cancel this. Okay, so let's get this thing back into the view mode. Okay, so there is my geometry. Okay, so save everything. Now, we go and create our mesh. So you go to structural mode. Now, this is what I talked about in the appendix. In the appendix explains to you why is this thing different from what you see in the chapter 15 main text. Okay, because when the hotfix 518 came about, they did a slight change, and therefore that's why it looks different. So I'm going to go to empty. Please read the appendix to find out why is it that what I'm showing you is a little bit different from what you're seeing in the actual chapter. Okay, so let's see now. Let's go ahead and do the meshing first. Meshing and the mesh. We're going to use the quad surface mesh. There's the front face. I think that's the front face. If you have a problem, take it from the screen. Put 10 millimeter here. This is 1 millimeter to merge any two nodes which are within 1 millimeter of each other. Parabolic, and then mesh. So there's the mesh for the front face. It's a good idea if I actually change the name of this thing to front surface. Properties, front surface. Yeah, front surface. Okay, front surface. Oops. You say okay. Let's do the back one now. So the back face, same defaults. Mesh. There's the back one. And let's change this thing to back. Properties, back. Let's do the narrowing. So there's a narrowing. Same number. Now you're going to get a warning message. So let's try it. Because when you look at it, that 10 millimeter is too big, but that's okay. It's warning, so we're gonna go and ignore that. Rename this. a narrow ring. And finally, the wide ring. The widening is going to be okay. Okay. So we give this thing a right click. This is the warning. This is the warning message right there. Right click properties, wide ring. Wide ring. All right, very good. Save everything. Now we have to define the properties, okay? So what you do is you go to model, and under properties, select the composite shell section. Okay, so let's see. Surface, the support. Let's start with really doesn't matter. So I did the back, I did for meshing, I did the front here. The order doesn't matter. Here's the front one. And we go by the group, plies. It says you have 4 ply groups. So this is the front one that I'm doing. I might as well select this front plies group. That's good. And repeat this thing three more times. So yeah. So there. Now I'm doing the back one. Back surface. Go by plies and select the right one. The back one is right here. One thing I forgot to do, I'm going to fix this thing now, and I'll fix the other one too. So, or maybe I should do this thing and I come back here and show you what I have to do. I've got to go and fix this. We'll do it first and then come and go through these things again, one by one. Okay. There we are. So the narrow ring. Apply. So the narrow ring is right here. Remember, I'm going to come back and fix this. And one more, last one. Wide one. Apply. The wide one is right here. And we say OK. Now, let me go back to these 4 properties that I created. This one somehow is something wrong here. Let's see what this thing is. I think I forgot to do this thing. Should have been the front one. I forgot to pick it. Front one, where is this? Right there. Okay, good. Now they're all okay. Now, we go back to the front one that I did. Okay, by the way, I can change the name of these so that I can see it if you prefer. Let's do that. Let me put the front here. Okay, good. Now, there is an advanced option here. You go and for the offset, you select bottom surface. This is to ensure that that surface that I have is the bottom surface, and it's the mold surface, okay? The mold surface, basically. So fine, and I have to do the same thing for the other ones. So double click. First of all, I'll change the name here. This is the back one. I'm pretty sure that was the back one. Okay, and then, oops, I want to be consistent here. Back. Okay, and then to advanced for the offset bottom surface. Okay, double click on this. I could have done it when I was preparing these things. So this is the narrow ring. Okay, narrow ring. All right, and again offset bottom surface. Change the name of this. Let's fix this thing. Now that we're doing it, we might as well do it right. All right, and this one is going to be the wide ring. You can see that when the problem becomes more complicated, then of course it takes a lot of bookkeeping to do it right. So this is the white ring, okay, and for the surface, offset, bottom surface. Very good. So save everything. We are done with the model preparation. Now we're going to go and do the loads and stuff that we want. So we go here to scenario, structural scenario creation. Okay, it's a structural one. Okay, so two red exclamation marks. We're familiar with these things. All right. So we go to setup, select the finite element model. There we are. One of these is going to become green. Then we go to procedure. It's a static one. Make sure that you don't have any geometric nonlinearities included. So this is going to become yellow, green. Now we're going to apply our loads and restraint. Now, remember that I always tell you to hide a bunch of stuff here before, because you don't want to select instead of put the clamp on on a ply boundary. So what you can do is you can go and hide the stack branch. But now when you select an edge here, it's truly an edge, okay? All right, by the way, if you don't want to see, let's clamp this thing. So restraint, you're going to clamp it. And actually, there are two edges here. If you turn it around, there are two edges here. There is an edge here, and there's an edge there. And you want to clamp them, and I did. Okay. I don't want this thing. I'm going to hide that rosette. It's easier if you hit the composite parameters. Probably easier like that. Yeah. Okay, very good. Okay, now we're going to go to loads. I want to apply 5 gigapascal on the front face. So we're going to apply pressure. On the front face, we can do it from here. Front face. And 5 gigapascal. So not 5 gigapascals, 5 e to the minus 6 gigapascal. Okay. And yep, that's pretty much it. Okay, you can see that. Maybe if I can rotate it, you can see this. Now we're going to apply the rotational velocity. Okay, so we go here under load. There is here applied translation. No, apply translation of velocity. I think, yeah. We want applied rotational velocity. You click on it, move this thing on the side. All right. Now remember, this is rotating about the global. The propeller is rotating about the global x-axis. So about the x-axis, 1,000 RPM. Now here you have, well, first of all, let me put 1,000 RPM. And then I'm going to select the support in just a second. I think in the book I put 500. I'm not sure. So I'll put a 500 here. I'm not sure what I actually specified in the book. So now, support is those four surfaces. Those four surfaces I selected as support. 1, 2, 3, and 4, because they all contribute towards centrifugal force. Okay, and we say all right there. We save. We're pretty much done here. Okay, so let's go ahead to simulation. All right, simulate. First do a model and scenario check. Hopefully we get a green check mark. If not, we have to go fix things. Very good, green check mark. Then we're going to get some warning messages because of the warning message that we got before for the coarse mesh of the narrow ring. But I don't anticipate any error messages.